Hi Wildcats, hi Coyotes, I'm Mr. Walters, your assistant principal and your very best friend, and welcome to the show. Some of you might remember this show used to be called The Dean's List because my job was Dean of Students. But this year, I get to be the assistant principal at 2 schools. Now that I'm settled into my new job, I'm excited to start making videos again. For each episode, we usually have a theme, and then we learn all about it with books from our school library. This month's theme is National Native American Heritage Month, which happens every November. National Native American Heritage Month is a time to recognize and celebrate the history, culture, and contributions of Native American people. Did you know? The first time this month was celebrated officially was in 1990 when President George H.W. Bush approved a resolution for it. One of my favorite ways to celebrate National Native American Heritage Month is reading. Today, we're going to be learning about Jim Thorpe. Jim Thorpe was a Native American gold medalist who is remembered as one of the greatest athletes of all time. He's featured in this book, Notable Native People, 50 Indigenous Leaders, Dreamers, and Changemakers from Past and Present by Adrienne, Keene. This book can be found in both the Ponderosa and Chester libraries. Let's read. Jim Thorpe, who was considered one of the most talented athletes in the world, defied odds, set records, and broke barriers for Native athletes. Born in 1888 in Indian Territory, later Oklahoma, Jim was raised in his Sac and Fox community and given the name Wa-Tho-Huk, meaning bright path. He attended the Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania, a government-run boarding school for Native children meant to assimilate them into mainstream society and sever their connection to their Native identity. While he was an underclassman at Carlisle, he watched the upperclassmen practicing the high jump and thought he'd give it a try, even though he was wearing overalls instead of athletic clothes. He managed to clear a bar taller than he was, an early indicator of his natural athletic ability. He played football and ran track and field for Carlisle and then for the Haskell Indian Nations University. Eventually, the famed football coach Pop Warner took notice of his talent and became his coach and mentor in 1911. In 1912, he competed for the U.S. track and field team at the Summer Olympics in Stockholm, where he won medals in many of his events. Shortly before his 1,500 meter for the decathlon, his shoes went missing, presumably stolen. Pop Warner, who had accompanied Jim as supporter and coach, found him a replacement pair of shoes, but they were mismatched and ill-fitting. Despite the shoes, Jim went on to win the decathlon. He took home 2 Olympic gold medals for decathlon and pentathlon, making him the first American to do so, and the first Native athlete to win an Olympic gold medal. His performance was so impressive that many of his records weren't beaten until many years later. However, in 1913, the Amateur Athletic Union stripped him of his medals after an investigation, which discovered he had played semi-professional baseball in 1909 and 1910, disqualifying him from Olympic competition. Many athletes, fans, and community members felt this was unjust, and after decades of pressure, the International Olympic Committee presented his family with replica medals in 1982, but the official Olympic record has never been corrected. In anticipation of a movie about his life, there are renewed efforts to restore his medals properly. Following the Olympics, he went on to play professional football, basketball, and baseball, and in 1950, a group of sports writers selected him as the greatest American athlete of the first half of the 20th century. If you'd like to learn more about Jim Thorpe, you can check out this book, Unstoppable: How Jim Thorpe and the Carlisle Indian School football team defeated Army. by Art Coulson, illustrated by Nick Hardcastle. This book tells the story of Jim Thorpe and his teammates from Carlisle who took on West Point to find out who was the best football team in all the land. And you can also find this book in both of our libraries. Thanks for joining me today. I've been your host, your assistant principal, and your very best friend, Mr. Walters, and I'll see you next time on... Oh, we have a problem. I don't know what to call the show anymore. Actually, maybe you could name the show. Coyotes and Wildcats, I want to hear your suggestions on what this show should be called. After all, it's for you. Be creative, think of your best ideas, and let me know. I can't wait to hear what ideas you come up with. See you next time. Hey, you two. I've got some great ideas on what we can call the show. I want to run them by you. Page Prowl with Mr. Walters.
Sounds like we're sneaking up to books in the dark. Are we reading or lurking through the library?
Well, what about Coyote and Wildcat Book Quest?
This sounds less like a reading show and more like a search party for lost bookmarks.
Well, what about Wilderness of Words with Mr. Walters?
Why stop there?
Why not wandering wildly through whopping words with wordy Walters? Nothing says fun read like forced alliteration.
The Story Pack?
Is this a reading show or a wildlife documentary?
I think you should leave this to the experts.